Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 10th of January, comes to you from Houston in Texas. I'm here for my last day, and interesting seeing clients here in the commodity space. So we're seeing the dollar had a big fall this morning, just really coming right the way back to cloud support. So big fall there on the dollar index. Having an impact there. So still struggling short term to get away and out up into this uptrend. So um, coming back into the range. So just a big shock there to the downside, and of course the euro bouncing up. So we're seeing here just hitting the cloud support. So that's quite key. Yen dollar weaker as well. So we are just seeing that dollar weakness all through, and sterling also we're seeing it's fairly flat. Although sterling, we've seen the jump here of sterling against the dollar, but sterling is still bearish below the cloud on the short-term chart. So sterling falling away a little bit too. We're seeing that against the euro. We're seeing sterling moving down, still above the cloud, just touching the cloud, but we're seeing here we have got downside targets, struggling really to recover on this short-term chart. Medium term is still pretty good, but the long term is still bearish for sterling. And looking at the Swiss franc, sterling's fallen right back as well there. And against the Australian dollar, a similar picture there as well. Bitcoin we're seeing here is really just nudging this 14,000. It's just below 14,000 level now as we speak, down about just under 4%. Bearish in the short term below the cloud. Key thing is we're starting to look like we're making a lower low. We can see here on this on the lagging line chart that we are actually starting to see that. So if we close the week at these levels, that's looking fairly bearish. If we look at the S&P 500, up very slightly yesterday, still continues to power ahead. I've mentioned in previous sessions I'm just slightly concerned there's a shortage of upside targets. Same is true of the Nasdaq. It's looking very strong on the charts, but the concern is there doesn't seem to be any upside to play for at the moment. That just means that we may have to endure a pullback to give us a new upside target. Looking at the Dow Jones, much the same picture, and the Russell 2000 is the only sort of index where we are seeing some upside potential. Looking at the S&P future, down 1/3%, the Nasdaq E-mini down 0.5%, so we are just seeing these markets potentially opening lower today. FTSE 100 is looking bullish above the cloud on the short-term chart, looking quite good, and we have got good upside targets. The key thing is kind of buck any setback in the US. Looking at the 250, again a shortage of upside targets here, but still looking bullish. The short-term chart just selling off. The DAX also selling off this morning, but still looking bullish on all three time frames. And the Nikkei also just a sell-off of 0.25% overnight. And the Hang Seng still powering ahead, looking pretty good as well. So this trend is really just the New Year trend on the Hang Seng looking very strong, and Shanghai also looking strong. So the worries that we saw technically in Chinese equities coming below the cloud have receded. Asia looking better than it was. India also looking strong, and the Australian market selling off this morning, but selling off today, but looking pretty strong. Brent crude 69.20, just nudging that $70 level. WTI also just now nudging 63.5, and so that's looking strong as well. US nat gas has actually made the transition, but really with everything that's been going on with this cold weather in the US, it's amazing that it hasn't gone up higher, so that just shows a position of weakness. Copper looking strong, just starting to bounce back up through the cloud, and gold up quite sharply on that dollar move. So gold looking strong there, now back above the cloud on all three time frames. We haven't yet activated this upside target to 1360, which is where we see quite strong resistance. If we break 1360, that's a real breakout of this sort of triangle pattern, so that would be quite good. And looking at silver, not looking as strong. US Treasury yields sitting, bouncing much higher, so we're seeing here with that dollar move, we're seeing a much bigger jump there, now at 2.59%. So we're just nudging the levels that we saw in late 2016. Looks like we will see yields going higher. Apple still looking fairly subdued on a relative strength basis, just not quite matching the market. Google looking quite strong. Amazon continuing to look pretty strong. Facebook just a little bit toppy there, but has got great targets to aim for. And Microsoft still holding its trend and bullish on all three time frames. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.